Did you know that the Union County Library has story time for preschoolers? They do. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m., there is story time for preschoolers. There's one more time for here in the month of January, and they're going to be talking about Groundhog Day. And then for February, it will be on the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. On the 5th of January, they're going to do Play-Doh play and stories. And then on the 12th, they're going to be talking about Valentine's Day. If you have a preschooler and you're interested in being involved with Storytime for Preschoolers and you want more information, you can call the library at 534-1991. Speaking of Valentine's Day, there is a Valentine's Day bingo. The Magnolia Recreation and Resource Center and the New Albany High School students are partnering up for an exciting Valentine's celebration for our 55-plus community members. This will be held at the Magnolia Civic Center on February the 10th at 10 a.m. If you would like more information, you can call Main Street at 534-3438, or you can contact Miss Annie Irby at 316-2062. We're going to have highlights of museum moments and Luncheon with Books this week. Luncheon with Books was introduced by Jill Shaw, talking about the book Becoming Mrs. Lewis. And at Museum Moments, there was a celebration of the Forward Together and the past 24 Forward Together specials that began in 1971 and continued for 24 years. This was started by newspaper owner William Rutledge, and there was one writer who stood out as a principal contributor, J. Lynn West. The museum takes a moment to celebrate the historic information and photographs collected in these Forward Together issues. And upcoming at the museum, there is an African American committee that will be meeting on January the 27th at 6 p.m. They'll be meeting at the museum so that they're working together, gathering names and information of local African American people who are successful in art, athletics, music, and business. If you're interested in being a part of this, call the museum and get some information. If you have some information to contribute to this, they definitely want to hear from you. And on January the 31st, there's a new thing that the museum is going to have. It's going to be called Storyline Cafe. What is your biggest blunder? Now is the time to tell. You can reveal your biggest blunder at the Storyline Cafe at the Union County Heritage Museum. Now, Storyline Cafe is hosted by Kathy Garrett, a well-known storyteller, and she and the museum invite you to come and hear or participate in this fun night of stories, conversations, friends, laughter, and embarrassing moments, music, and trivia. In the spirit of many storytellers who have edified in the past, such as the late Pug Graham and Hilda Hill and others who were known as the Gollywhoppers, the art of the story is as old as the campfire around from which the first stories were told. Now there'll be coffee and wine and cheese and crackers that will be served during this time. There is a $10 cover charge for the evening at the museum. So come on and bring a story. And on February the 14th, at the museum, they will have their annual museum event for those who volunteer at the museum, making it so much possible to hold the museum programming. If you're a volunteer, please come on February the 14th at 10 a.m. and enjoy the brunch and program. And if you would like to volunteer, please come and see what all they do. The Museum Guild has many volunteer opportunities. On Saturday, February the 15th, Ballet Magnificent, the Christian Conservatory of Dance will present Deliver Us. Experience one of ballet's most popular and longest touring ballets, Deliver Us. Set to the music of DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt, this riveting story will jump off the stage and into your life. Deliver Us was first performed in 2001 and has since been performed in Asia, Europe, North and South America, and the Middle East for countless audience members. Tickets can be purchased online at thechristianconservatoryofdance.com. On March the 21st, there's going to be a Shamrock Shuffle on the Tanglefoot. Join them for a casual walk of the Tanglefoot Trail to raise awareness for the Union County Humane Society. Forms are available at the Main Street office, the Union County Library, Tallahatchie Nutrition, AC's Coffee. The entry fee includes a t-shirt and a finish line party. And speaking of the Union County Humane Society, they lost one of their own this week. On Thursday, there was an accident that took the life of Callie Daniels Bryant, the heart and lifeblood of the Union County Humane Society. This amazing woman is going to be missed, and I know that there are lots of people out there mourning her. The group requested that an act in kindness protect the helpless and be changed by what you want to see. That's how she lived and how she would want us to live. There is a GoFundMe account to help with Callie's funeral services if you would like to contribute. She was a sweet soul. We will have a tribute to her later in the show by showing some of the past interviews that we did with her. She was a sweet and beautiful heart. She will be missed. On March the 21st, a family-friendly fun in the lower library parking lot with the Pharaoh Car Club of Mississippi. Hot rods, classics, muscle cars, and trucks. Get up close and talk with the owners of these beauties. Now, this will be on Saturday, March the 21st. Also on March the 21st at 9 a.m., the Union County Heritage Museum are going to be gathering up folks for assignments at 9 a.m. They will hand out garbage bags, gloves, and give you assignments. There will be lunch at noon when the close of the day's work. Now, the Dinner and Dialogue has a new gathering coming up for the month of February. On February the 1st, they will be located at Nautical Whimsy at 210 West Bankhead Street in Tupelo. The guest panelists will be Tony Martin, Tarlita Brown Robinson, and Kenneth and Veronica Bell. And then on February the 15th, the guest panelists is Miranda Starks, Trey Sean Stafer, and Albert and Santana Crowley. The Union County Republican Women's Club invites everyone to their first 2020 meeting and installation of officers. This will be held Monday, January the 27th at 6:30 at the Magnolia Civic Center. They ask that you RSVP at 538-4552. Now, there will be an introduction of the local Republican officials, as well as hearing from Lucian Smith, the chairman of Mississippi's Republican Party. In addition, they will get a preview of the Trump campaign in the North Mississippi and Strike Force. For more information on the event, how to join, or RSVP for dinner, please call or text 538-4552. The Oxford Film Fest is coming up March the 18th through the 22nd. And on From the Heart this week, on Tuesday, I visit with Miss Melody, and she tells us about the different aspects of the Oxford Film Fest. We hope you'll tune in Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. And if it's after Tuesday, you can catch it on our website at hillcountrynetwork.net by going to the Programs tab. If you like the blast from the past, how about the Mississippi Dulcimer Association? The North Mississippi Dulcimer Association will be playing at 10 a.m. to noon on Saturday, February the 1st at the Parkway Visitor Center located at milepost 266 near Tupelo. Now, the North Mississippi Dulcimer Association teaches dulcimer history, tradition, craftsmanship, and music by sharing the knowledge and their talents. The Appalachian Mountain Dulcimer is the first instrument developed in the United States. Dating back to the early 1800s, the dulcimer is an instrument whose very name means sweet sound. The National Park Service and the North Mississippi Dulcimer Association invites everyone to listen to the soft, sweet sounds of the dulcimer and learn about its extensive history. The program is free. Bring out the kids so they can hear this wonderful music too. For additional information, you can call 305-7417. Unfortunately, there has been a second travel-related case of the new virus in the United States. The CDC confirmed on January the 24th that the second infection of 2019 nCoV in the United States has been detected in Illinois. The patient recently returned from China, where an outbreak of the respiratory illness that was caused by this virus has been ongoing since December 2019. The patient returned to the USA from Wuhan on January the 13th, 2020, and called a healthcare provider after experiencing symptoms a few days later. The patient was admitted to the hospital, where infection control measures were taken to reduce the risk of transmission to other individuals. The patient remains hospitalized in isolation in stable condition and is doing well. It is likely there will be more cases reported in the U.S. in the coming days and weeks. The CDC will continue to update the public as circumstances warrant. With the immediate risk of a new virus to the American public is believed to be low at this time, there are simple daily precautions that everyone should always take. It is currently flu and respiratory disease season, and the CDC recommends getting vaccinated, taking everyday preventive actions to stop the spread of germs, such as washing your hands and coughing into your sleeve, and taking flu antivirals if prescribed. Right now, the CDC recommends travelers avoid all non-essential travel to Wuhan, China. In addition, the CDC recommends people traveling to China practice certain health precautions, like avoiding contact with people who are sick and practicing good hand hygiene. Now, the Inspector General of the Social Security, Callie Daniels, is warning the public that telephone scammers may send fake documents by email to convince victims to comply with their demands. Now, the Social Security Administration has received reports of victims who received emails with attached letters and reports that appear to be from the Social Security or Social Security OIG, Office of Inspector General. The letters may even use official letterhead and government jargon to convince victims that they are legitimate. They may also contain misspelling and grammar mistakes. This is the latest variation on the Social Security phone scams, which continue to be widespread throughout the United States. Using robocalls or even live callers, the fraud people pretend to be government employees and claim there is an identity theft or another problem with the Social Security number, account, or benefits. They may even threaten to arrest or other legal action. They also may offer to increase your benefits, protect your assets, or resolve identity theft. They often demand payment via retail gift card, cash, wire transfer, internet currencies such as Bitcoin, or a prepaid debit card. Inspector General Enos urges continual vigilance against all types of phone scams, no matter what proof callers may have. As we continue to increase public awareness of phone scams, criminals will come up with new ways to convince people of their legitimacy. Social Security will never, 1, threaten you with arrest or other legal action unless you immediately pay a fine or fee. 2, promise a benefit increase or other assistance in exchange for payment. 3, they will never require payment by retail gift card, cash, wire transfer, internet currency, or a prepaid debit card. And 4, they will not send official letters or reports containing personal, identifiable information by email. If there is ever a problem with your Social Security number or record, in most cases, Social Security will mail you a letter. If you do need to submit a payment to Social Security, the agency will send a letter with instructions and payment options. You should never pay a government fee or fine using retail gift cards, cash, internet currency, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. The scammers ask for payments this way because it is very difficult to trace and recover. If you receive a call or email that you believe to be suspicious A problem with your Social Security number or account? Hang up. Do not respond. We encourage the public to report to Social Security all phone scams using our dedicated online form at https://oig.ssa.gov. Please share this information with your friends and family to help spread awareness about phone scams. Maria Favela, a student at the New Albany High School, has been selected to participate in an impressive internship program this semester at Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Mississippi in Blue Springs. The Toyota Creating Your Future internship is a 15-week program where high school students earn national certification, complete orientation, and experience aspects of the production floor. Congratulations! Also, 4 students from New Albany High School participated in Creating Your Future, the Toyota internship program during the fall semester. The students completed the program and recently recognized in a graduation ceremony at Toyota. Pictured from left to right is Jack Harrington, Rob Montgomery, Noah Willis, and Eli Osgood. And you might recognize this young lady. We interviewed her and one of her fellow classmates, Miss Callie Dowell. There's been a recent development with Miss Dowell. Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Callie Dowell of the Air Force Junior ROTC at New Albany High School has been selected to receive the National Flight School Scholarship to participate in a private pilot's license training program in the summer of 2020. The scholarship covers transportation, room and board, academics, flight hours required to earn a private pilot's license. Cadet Dowell is one of 200 Air Force Junior ROTC cadets around the world to receive the scholarship from the headquarters of the Air Force Junior ROTC, Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. There are more than 125,000 students enrolled in the Air Force Junior ROTC and at almost 900 high schools in the U.S. and overseas. The mission of the Air Force Junior ROTC is to develop citizens of character dedicated to serving their nation and community while instilling values of citizenship, service to the United States, personal responsibility, and a sense of accomplishment. When looking to fill tomorrow's career needs with the best candidates, there is simply no better place for the nation to look than the Air Force Junior ROTC. Congratulations, Miss Kayla. The New Albany Middle School Geography Bee was held Thursday, January the 23rd, and pictured are the winners. Congratulations. 2 New Albany Bulldog tennis players committed to play college tennis in front of friends, family, and school staff on Friday, January the 24th. Lexi Kent and Luke Boland signed scholarships with Itawamba Community College. Both have been involved in tennis since middle school and continuing members of the tennis team while they were in high school, winning 2 state championships. Congratulations to you all. New Albany High School is exploring ways to add more advanced placement offerings for the high school students. New Albany High School has long provided multiple opportunities for dual credit and dual enrollment classes where students can receive college credit for courses such as English, composition, college algebra, sociology, biology, chemistry, iOS iPhone app development, and several more. Several administrators attended a conference this past summer and realized that we need to add advanced placement classes to students who wish for additional challenges, said John Farrell, the New Albany High School principal. In many cases, students who wish to attend selective colleges and universities need advanced placement courses more than they need dual credit opportunities. Christina Ritchie is a parent whose son is enrolled in the class. She explained that she is happy for this opportunity, which provides challenging coursework and helps enhance his transcript and resume. Advanced Placement U.S. Government has helped to deepen my appreciation for history while challenging me in new ways, says Hayes Ritchie, who is one of the students enrolled in the course. Now, this semester, the New Albany High School is offering this one course on a pilot basis, hopes to have 5 or more offerings during the 2020-2021 school year, and to provide training for some of the teachers currently on staff. Students in the Advanced Placement U.S. Government approach this class mostly through online assignments and video-based learning, but the instructor does meet with students face-to-face regularly to ask questions, review for tests, and deliver classroom instructions. Thank you for joining us here today on Hill Country Happenings News Minutes. Now, we are on all the social media, so be sure and go find us on Instagram and follow us there, and on Twitter and follow us there. We have Facebook, so be sure to go in and like our page and share different articles and different posts that we put up. Get the news out that there is an online television station that covers the community. You can also go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there. We are pushing to get 1,000 subscribers as fast as we can, and we hope that you will go to YouTube and subscribe. We also put up all of our original programming there, so if you happen to miss one and you don't go to our website, you can go to YouTube and watch our original programs there. We hope you'll stay tuned for the rest of the show, and we hope you have a wonderful week.
He said, "You are," and he said, "I'm terse," and I'm giving the next one. I said, "Well, I'll just borrow 20 of your minutes." So I will try. This book is so good, and I had tons of quotes marked. I won't be able to read them all and get through in the time allotted. But the name of the book is Becoming Mrs. Lewis. How many of y'all are familiar with C.S. Lewis? Probably everybody in here. How many of you have seen either the story, the movie Shadowlands, or read something about his life? Probably others. So, last time I was on Mary and Jesus, and I said I didn't have to do a spoiler alert on that one because most everybody's read that story. But this one is, I asked Anita, I said, "Should I tell?" She said, "Oh yeah, they'll be mad if you don't tell the ending. So if you don't want to hear the ending, you can exit. I'm going to try to report on the whole book." Becoming Mrs. Lewis is, in many ways, I would classify, if someone asked me to, as a biography of a relationship. It has information about both C.S. Lewis and his wife, but the story, rather than being just a biography of the two people, is really the story of their relationship. It has enough information about both of them in it to kind of hold the story together, but the main focus is the relationship. Patty Callahan is the author, and she lives in Mountain Brook, Alabama, which is just that little incorporated city inside of Birmingham. It's a wealthy little city right inside of Birmingham. And she also has a home in Bluffton, South Carolina, with her, and she shares that with her husband. It said she had 3 children, and they don't live with them, so my assumption is that they are grown adult children, but I don't know that. But anyway, it's interesting. She's a New York Times best-selling author and has won awards for her fiction. But she did her undergraduate work in nursing at Auburn and her graduate work also in nursing at Georgia State University. And she worked as a pediatric clinical nurse specialist before becoming a full-time writer. So she is also careered, and she has given up all of the other just to write full-time. She confesses in the writer's notes at the end of the story that she first read her first C.S. Lewis book at 12. It was the Screwtape Letters. She was more advanced than me in her reading than I am, and I was at that age in her reading. And like the heroine of the book, Joy, she says, "I instantly fell into my own kind of love with Lewis." And so years later, when she was writing, she chose to write this book because she really felt a kinship with Joy that this book talks about, his wife, the one that's later his wife, because when she read his words, she was really moved, just like Joy was, with his writing. She calls this historical fiction, but I have to tell you that in reading it, you can tell that it's been heavily researched, and also there's a 2.5-page bibliography in the back of the book which she read to prepare for writing it. So I think what she would mean by that is that she's made up some of the conversations that have been lost and some of the letters maybe, but it's heavily factual about what happened when and the timeline and all of that. She also, besides reading and researching all those books, was able to go to Wheaton College in Illinois, where they house what's left of Joy's manuscripts and different things. And also they have C.S. Lewis's, and she didn't say which 6, but she said there are also 6 other, I don't know how she, important, I'll use that word, I don't think that was the word she used, English authors where they house all of what's left of their book, their manuscripts and their letters and that kind of thing. Many of her name was Joy Davidman, Helen Joy Davidman. Many of her things were lost, but what remains is there at Wheaton. I just want to say, as I review the story, I want you to listen. There's several themes in this book. One of them is a woman's struggle to be both a professional writer and a wife and a mother. She struggles with that throughout her whole life. The second is the journey of the Christian life with its ups and downs and joys and disappointments. She is faced with a lot of things that she just has to work through. And she comes to the conclusion in the book that God doesn't fix our lives. He holds our hands while we work to fix them. And that she, they prayed for things that they did not get exactly what they prayed for, but I'll get to that. Listen for that theme. And the third one is the real differences in her marriage and how they compare to each other. So I hate to just stand up here and read, but I'm going to read the prologue to you because it really sets, of course, the scene for the whole book. It's not but about 1.5 pages or maybe a little longer. And it starts in 1926 in Bronx, New York. And here it is. From the very beginning, it was the great lion who brought us together. I see that now. The fierce and tender beast drew us to each other, slowly, inexorably, across time, beyond an ocean, and against the obdurate bulwarks of our lives. He wouldn't make it easy for us, for that's not his way. It was the summer of 1926. My little brother Howie was 7 years old, and I was 11. I knelt next to his bed and gently shook his shoulder. "Let's go," I whispered. "They're asleep now." That day, I'd come home with my report card, and among the long column of A's, there was an indelible stamp of a single B, denting the cotton paper. "Father," I tapped his shoulder, and he glanced away from the papers he was grading, his red pencil marking students' work. "Here's my report card." His eyes scanned the card. The glasses perched on the end of his nose, an echo of the photos of his Ukrainian ancestors. He had arrived in America as a child, and at Ellis Island his name was changed from Yosef to Joseph. He stood now to face me and lifted his hand. I could have backed away. I knew what was next, in a family where assimilation and achievement were the priorities. His open palm flew across the space between us, a space brimful with the shimmering expectation of acceptance and praise, and slapped my left cheek with the clap of skin on skin, a sound I knew well. My face jolted to the right. The sting lasted, as it always did, long enough to stand for the verbal lashing that came after. There is no place for slipshod work in this family, 1B. No, there was no place for it at all. By the time I was 11, I was a sophomore in high school. I must try harder, be better, abide all disgrace, until I found a way to succeed and prove my worth. At night, Howie and I had our secrets. In the darkness of his bedroom, he rose, his little sneakers tangling in the sheets. He smiled at me. I've already got my shoes on, I'm ready. I suppressed a laugh and took his hand. We stood stone still and listened for any breaths but our own. Nothing. Let's go, I said, and he laid his small hand in mine, an act of trust. We crept from the brownstone under the empty Bronx street. The wet garbage odor of the city as pungent as inside of the subway. The sidewalks, dark rivers, the street lights, small moons, and the looming buildings' protection from the outside world. The city was silent, deceptively safe in the midnight hours. Howie and I were on a quest to visit other animals caged and forced to act civil in a world they didn't understand. The residents of the Bronx Zoo. Within minutes, we arrived at Fordham Road. Well, I'll skip that part. We cherished our secret journeys to the Midnight Zoo. The parrot house with the multicolored creatures inside, the hippo named Peter the Great, the flying fox, the reptile house slithering with creatures both unnatural and frightening. Sneaking out was both our reward for enduring family life and our invisible rebellion. And then there was the lion's den, a dark, caged, and forested area. I was drawn there as if those beasts belonged to me, or I to them. Sultan, my voice was resonant in the night. Boot made. The pair of Barbary lions ambled forward, placing their great paws on the earth, muscles dangerous and rippling beneath their fur as they approached the bars. A great grace surrounded them as if they had come to understand their fate and to accept it with roaring dignity. Their manes were deep and tangled as a forest. I fell into the endless universe of their large amber eyes as they allowed, even invited me, to reach through the iron and wind my fingers into their fur. They had been tamed beyond their wild nature, and I felt a kinship with them that caused a trembling in my chest. They indulged me with a return gaze, their warm weight pressed into my palm, and I knew that capture had damaged their souls. I'm sorry, I whispered every time. We were meant to be free. I'll try not to cry this time. Okay. All right, so as the book opens, Joy's living with her husband, Bill Gresham. At this time, she goes by Joy Gresham. He is a marginally successful writer. They have 2 sons. Davy is a toddler and Douglas a baby. Joy is also a published writer. In fact, she is more critically acclaimed than he is, and really a more talented writer than her husband. She met Bill, who was married at the time, in New York City and began to date him. It was a lustful, urgent kind of pairing that they had. They married just 3 days after he divorced the wife that he was married to when she met him. Soon after they married, he began an affair with a blonde woman in New York City, just very soon after they married. Joy convinced him to move the family up into the Hudson Valley out in a rural area where they didn't have close neighbors in an effort to save her marriage. They bought a farmhouse with acreage and moved there. Bill had been in the Vietnam War, I believe volunteered, and he had been on a lot of different assignments, and he suffered from PTSD and then the resultant alcoholism to try to deal with the PTSD. He was prone to... Renee moves out for her own peace of mind. She just can't live that way. Well, after, this shocked me, but it really didn't. After Renee moved out, Bill tries to convince Joy to rekindle their relationship. Now that she's gone, and I've choked you and slammed you against the wall.
I never would.
So, of course, she says no. He even asked her to have a threesome with him, Renee, and Joy. He says, we can live here, you can take care of your kids, she can take care of hers, and we can all make it. It'll be better with the 3 of us. And so, at that point, she's determined to get out of there with her boys. She will not leave her boys with that man. And Bill leaves in their car to travel, and so she files for legal separation, taking the boys with her, and then while he's gone, she sells the house and gets enough money. They packed up all the stuff that couldn't be moved to England, and I won't read it, but it said, you know, what I had remaining on the earth was in 4 trunks, 2 suitcases, you know, I'm making that up, but it was like 4 trunks, 2 suitcases, and a purse or whatever. So that was all she kept of the stuff of their marriage and all their stuff. And she sold everything else and sold the house, and that's how she got the money to go back. So part 4 is England. Fast as I can. She goes to England, secures an apartment from a lady who had had similar troubles and gave her a real good break on rent. It was a nice apartment, plenty of room in an old building. She enrolls the boys in school, but she can't afford, it was called public school, but it was a boarding school. I don't know what that means. But anyway, they went to live there. She had to pay for it, but I think it wasn't like one of the real fine schools. She decided it would be the best for them to be there to learn. And eventually, Jack tells her that he has a fund for boys that can't afford to go to school, and she says, oh, I can't take money from you. And he said, well, you're not taking it from me, you're taking it from a charity that I have. So she ended up letting him pay for their school. So eventually, not immediately, but eventually she takes the boys to the Kilns to meet the Lewises, and they just fall in love with Jack and Morty, and Jack and Morty fall in love with them, and they, you know, of course it's a big old farm, and they run all over the place and go to the lake and they fish and they ice skate and they, you know, whatever all the boys do. And so it was just wonderful. And of course the Lewis men were so kind to the boys. And one time one of them, I can't remember the question, but one time one of them asked a question and he kind of laughed and the boys stepped back because at home when you ask the wrong question it was just, you know, a tirade. And so Joy kind of pats him and says, now that's not going to happen here. These men don't act that way. Some men can be nice, and they weren't used to it. But anyway, she began to work on, well, it says, I skipped this sentence, but it said after several visits, Joy really began to feel that they were an odd family in a way, that it just kind of fitted together. Still no thoughts of marriage or anything like that. But she began to work on his biography. And then as she was just in and out a lot, she didn't live there. But after they had, you know, continued to talk, he told her that he'd gotten a job from Cambridge, got a job offer from Cambridge, which he had turned down, and he called Tolkien Tollers. And he said, Tollers sort of thought I ought to take it, but I'm just too old to make any kind of change. And she encouraged him to take it too. And this was shocking to me. He had worked at Oxford 30 years, and he'd been passed over for 3 or 4 jobs that they gave to other people. It is amazing to me that there would be anybody more able to do something than C.S. Lewis. He was so smart, but they had passed over him. And Tollers, I think, saw, and Joy did too, that he wasn't being treated right. So they both asked him to think about taking it. And so he called, and they had offered it to a woman, but she didn't take it. So he was able to get that job and move, which kind of shook him a little bit loose from his staid way of life. In 1954, Joy received the divorce decree from Bill. It was accusatory of her, insisting that she lived in a fantasy world and would not live with him in their happy home. And so, and there was a whole lot about that, but Jack just said, well, if you want to recommend a great work of fiction to anybody, send them that divorce decree.
You know, our mission with the Historical Society is to collect and preserve and to educate, and that just kind of condenses it into a nutshell. And when we look back at the resources that we work with, there's a consistent resource that stands out. We always go back to Forward Together. And there were approximately 24 issues. I say approximately because I'm not really sure when it ended. I know it started in 1971. Thanks to the Rutledge family who started this. It just is, it contains so much information from so many different people that it's not a complete measure of what we use and what we collect, but it sure is a good starting point. And so we thank the Rutledge family for coming up with this idea. Bill and his father brought that to life. And it's very addicting. If you ever want to come up here and start going through them, you'll just find that you don't want to stop because there's so many good facts and good images there. And it was every May the Gazette published this large special issue, and I know one on the front of it said 122 pages, so that was probably one of the larger ones. But you'll find the schools, the churches, business and industry, and women and men and architecture, and the centennial and the sesquicentennial and the cemeteries. You know, and people's just their individual memories of what it was like to live on a sharecropping farm in Union County. You never know what you're going to find. When Billie Jean wanted a picture of the jail, and that's where I went. And to find out when somebody needs something, that's the first place I go. The flood of 1927. So Ainsley Childers is one of my interns, and she put together this PowerPoint about, I wanted to see what her perspective was on it. And I wish she could be here today, but she's in class. But that's a couple of the covers of the first issues, and that's the one that's 122 big pages. That was the 9th annual one. So that was probably 1980. And that just shows some of the covers. We really used the one about the churches probably more than any other one thing when we were trying to do the Hallelujah Trail and find out when the churches were established. That one truly was useful because every church wanted to be in there. There's one just on women. That's way on later though. When they decided they better do one on women. This is the first one, and it's 1971, and it shows the way town was, I guess, in some of the earliest pictures that they could come up with, about 1905 probably. And then there's an aerial view of the town as it is in 1971. But you see things like, this is Bankhead Street in 1899. And it tells who the people are. It's the Edgar Stevens, it's the Stevens family law firm, I believe. Of course, I bet a lot of you remember this photo that shows, it's a postcard. It shows the well in the middle of Bankhead Street. And you can see the first Rainy Hotel up there. Things were thriving. That's another view of that same postcard that's somebody has sent to someone from North Carolina. I thought this was interesting, the 1927 flood, when you see the wooden bridge submerged there, and that's what was the catalyst for us to get the first concrete bridge. And those buildings that you see are gone now, of course. It was Barclay Grocery.
What's the date on that right there?
That's 1927, when the Mississippi River flooded.
That's what I want to know.
This is, New Albany marks its days by floods, and this is the flood of '48. And we've got some other images that show people going in boats inside stores. And that's what New Albany looked like in '71, the aerial view.
Was it pretty bad to loot back then?
To what?
To loot.
Oh, I didn't get any stories about that. But there's a good bit about the Civil War, and I guess when I first came here, people used to ask about, you think that cannon is still buried down there in Mud Creek? And there was a lot of conversation about that, but I don't hear much about it anymore. Either somebody's found it or nobody cares. I'm not sure which it is. But that's Civil War veterans that meeting here in New Albany. The school days, you'll see the big school there that was kind of the calling card for people to move to New Albany, and their kids could go to school in that school. Instead of there being a separate school district, there was it was privately financed in the beginning. And then there's, of course, Wallerville and Cleveland Street. There are literally hundreds of old school pictures, and there was 75 schools in Union County at the turn of the century, which is pretty marvelous when you think about it. There's 5 now. And I had made a note to myself. I was reading about the Civil War. I want to go back to that for a minute. You know, you read about a stump being filled with gold coins to protect them, and then they had a lot of walnuts and stuff they put in on the gold coins in the stump, and the Union soldiers started eating them, and they just kept filling it up because they knew the money was at the bottom. And so somebody had written that story, and there's a story about the Union soldiers coming and leaving nothing but a jar of molasses and finding all their hiding places. You have all these first-person accounts of that. And, you know, I kind of think I know it all, but I found out I didn't. There was a legend, and I wondered if any of y'all had heard about the ghostly goat of Hell Creek. There's a story about that in there, and it was an apparition that was seen repeatedly in Hell Creek Bottom. It was first reported by a staggering drunk, so nobody believed him. But he said it came at him on his hind legs, and he was so big he said he would never go back. And then the second time the man saw it, another man saw it, he was sober. And then it was seen by a man who said he didn't believe in those kind of things. Had been cutting hay all day, and he was coming home after dark, and it upset his team of mules. So that was worth a story in one of the Forward Togethers, the giant goat of Hell Creek Bottom. So it made people not want to travel in that part of the country at night. So we'll see if anybody else has heard that one. But another of the things that I learned at Enterprise, there was a boarding school there called Mount Aaron. And that was just one of the many, many schools, but they boarded there. And they all used the blue bike spellers, and a lot of them chopped wood and carried their lunch in molasses buckets to school. These are some of the early graduating classes of New Albany School. And there's Concord, which was up Highway 15. Pleasant Ridge, Wallerville. This is an interesting picture of a hunt that Miss Louise Hale brought in, and I wondered if she was the Louise Hale that married Dean Faulkner. But it shows...
She was a Kitchens.
Oh, okay. But it shows Bill Neely and Gray Harwell and Boyd Pickens and J.P. Kirkland. He's the man sitting down there. This was interesting. This was Alonzo, Jim, and Giles Buns, and basically all it said is they were dismissed from church for dancing. So, looks like they had a pretty good time, but they're all dressed up, but they dismissed them. Athletics is covered very well through here. In fact, we're having one of the interns harvest all the sports. The people who have been outstanding in sports are in the books. So we're having those harvested, and we're going to have the Sports Hall of Fame here one of these days. When we get to the point we think we've got everybody. There's a story about a man who made 60 points in one game. So there's just a lot of good photos and stories about sports. This one is the 1943 semi-pro champs, and they're on the wall up front. This is the B.F. Ford Orchestra in 1938, and on another note, we have gotten a lot of B.F. Ford Union County Training School negatives that were through a grant through Unite. We're scanning, so we'll have some more images from that era.
We have more fosters, we have more supplies with more and more donated ghost food. We have endless litter thanks to oil drill and cat's pod for donated to us. And we have more fosters, like I said. But the problem is that we have to scale our medical needs to meet all of these increases, if that makes sense. But our bake sale, which is our third annual bake sale, we hope to raise even 1,000 because that's been one major bit we'll paid off just like that. And you get to have a sweet tooth, take care of the animals. It's a pretty good justification there.
So if somebody wanted to donate, where would they need to go to donate something?
Well, if you have cash donation, you could send a cash or check to P.O. Box 116, New Albany, Mississippi 38652. Or you can call in our vet offices. You can call All Animal, Clover Haven, Pet Wellness, and New Albany Clinic, and just call for our account, pay whatever you feel like donated there, or you can donate to our PayPal. Now, if you have like food, canned food, we need lots of canned food. Probably a kitchen shower, we need a lot of those. You can drop it off at the Mississippi State Extension office. Thank you so much for your support. We truly appreciate every single person in the community. It takes a village.